Okie dokie. We are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Mohammed over there on the YouTube side, how are you doing? And we have Smudge over on the Twitch side. How are you doing? RCW, good to see you as well. Jay McKeon, welcome, first time chatter. Welcome to the stream. So, what we are going to do tonight, and since we have a new person here, we are developing a game engine from scratch, written in C, using Vulkan as our initial rendering backend, and we're doing sound stuff today. So we did that last stream. We're going to kind of pick up where we left off there. Did a little bit more work off stream, and talked about or implemented some of the things we talked about on stream last time. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit, and I'm actually actively troubleshooting an issue right now that we're going to see if we can't resolve. I think it's just like an off by one or something like that, but we'll find it. Before I get too far into things, though, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, Javier Olazaran. That is the highest tier of subscription over on YouTube and Patreon. We next have our partners, who are the next tier of subscription over there, and they are Garbolis Inc. and Matt Osgard, followed by our other supporters listed here on the screen. They are a combination of other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And I'd also like to thank each and every one of you viewers, whether you're joining us here live, either on the Twitch side or the YouTube side. We do simulcast to both. Or if you're catching the VOD after the fact, of course, this project and thus this channel would not exist without you guys. So I appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you very much for being here. Okay, so it's pronounced Mahmood. My bad. I will try to remember that next time. It's kind of like numbers and stuff, so I mispronounce stuff all the time on stream. So feel free to correct me if I do. It's Mahmood or Mahmood. Is it Mahmood or Mahmood? I'm probably still pronouncing it wrong. It's probably neither of those. All right, Ruderick5, how's it going? Good to see you as well. Welcome. Mahmood. Okay. All right, I will go with that. Okay, so what we are looking at today is we were talking about the new audio system last time, and we were talking about implementing audio emitters. And I have gotten a lot of those things laid out off camera, so we'll kind of go through, at least on a high level, some of that stuff and what it looks like. Starting with the configuration of it, because I feel like that probably makes the most sense. So if we take a look at our test scene, we have a new node here at the bottom of that, right? So this here is the node, and it's got a name fire. It's got a it's basically an identity transform, but I wanted the ability to be able to move it around. And then we have a single attachment, which is of the type audio emitter. It has the name fire emitter. And then we are using our audio resource fire loop from the testbed package. You'll note here that I've implemented some properties we did not have last night. And this was kind of something that we talked about a little bit offline in terms of having a sound radius and fall off and those things. So we're going to be looking at that a little bit tonight as well once we get past the certain or the current issue that we have. But the gist is the inner radius is basically the amount of space or from the origin of the sound emitter where the sound plays at full volume. So this should basically be 2 meters from the sound. It should be playing full volume. And then the outer radius is the maximum distance away from the origin of the sound, or the position of the sound, that you should be able to hear it, right? So that's 15 meters out. And then we have a fall-off rate that sort of defines more or less a curve of how that falls off between here and here. And so all of those things are hooked up, and we're actually loading those things correctly. So that, thankfully, is not the issue that we're looking at. I've hooked all that stuff up to our parsers and our serializers and all that stuff. And we are loading in all those properties. So the issue that we are having is, for some reason now, and I don't know what I changed that broke this, but all of our sounds are essentially loading the same resource. And I'm not 100% sure why. So we have between our scene, which is loading that sort of fire loop, and then our testbed application, where I've hard coded a couple of those things. I did turn off the test loop sound, which is what that fire noise was we were hearing last night. I've moved that over to emitter. But we should still have the test music that we've loaded playing on channel 7. And then we should also have the test audio that is played on key press. And both of those things I think are working. But the problem is the resource that I'm assigning to it is not the one that's being loaded. It seems to be that all of them are loading this this test audio, right? Because that's the sound you'll hear in a second here when I run the application. So I'm actually going to pause the music here for a second because we do have a little bit of audio. So let's go ahead and turn that off, and then we will switch over to our debugger and we'll run it. And I've just got a breakpoint set here. I'm going to go ahead and just undo that, just so that we can kind of... So you guys heard that sound, right? That came up when the window first loaded. That's the sound that I get when I press the F key, right? And it just kind of plays a sound, right? That sound that came up should have been music, and there should be music playing right now. And there's not. It played that sound instead. So the thing that I'm thinking caused that is also the same thing that causes what we're about to hear now, which is when I load the scene, we play the same sound over and over and over again, right? Now, we do see that we have a test box here where the emitter is kind of supposed to be, but that's not right either, and we see we have some X-form issues. So that is more or less what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, and I'm not 100% sure why it's only paying attention to the first sound. And so, in fact, in order to go ahead and test that real quick, I'm actually going to duplicate this line. And let's see, let's comment out that one, and we're going to change this one over. We're just going to change this to Woodland Fantasy, which is a music track, right? And we'll go ahead and stream this one. True, rather. True. Can't type tonight either, apparently. All right, so go ahead and build that, and we'll see if I'm correct about what's happening. At least the symptom. We should hear the music play when we load this up. So let's go ahead and open our debugger, load this up, and now we have the music playing, right? Which means that this is probably going to sound awful, but when I load up the scene, it's probably going to play it twice. Yeah, see? So it's tripping over itself, right? So we need to figure out why that is happening. I can go ahead and remove that line. So my theory is correct, at least, but I don't know why that's happening. So we're going to have to figure that out. All right, let me catch up on some chat here. It looks like we've got a few. Nivimi, good to see you. Lime Oats, hello as well. Flask, it's been a while since I've seen you. How are you doing? Hope everything is well. Let's see. As the rendering passes and my rendering engine increases, I get confused about where to put each pass. Should AA or anti-aliasing come before or after color grading, etc.? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can get complicated once you have a lot of passes, for sure. Is there any resource that makes the order of rendering passes clear? No, and here's why, right? Because it really depends on what you're trying to do, and everybody's pipeline is different. So it requires it's all about what you're trying to actually accomplish. People are going to have passes that other people don't have, and things like that, right? The way that I have it set up for this application might not even make sense for a different application. So there's not really one clear-cut, all-size fits solution to that. Because everybody has different passes that achieve different things. So unfortunately, there's not really that. Let's see. I'm not sure how you allocate or store the sounds, although maybe that allocator is forgetting to update an index or resetting it by accident, e.g. in the stack allocator. So the index is always pointing the first time. I think it's something like that, yes. I just haven't found it yet. So what I'm going to do is I have determined, at least off camera, that when we play these things and we request the channel that gets pulled seems to actually be the right one internally. So like when we say play this on channel 7, channel 7 is the one that is actually playing that thing. But what is not apparent is what's going on after that, right? Or how it's actually pulling that resource. So I think the problem is probably in our rendering front end, just feeding the rendering back, or I'm sorry, the audio front end is feeding the audio back end something wrong, I think. So what we're doing also is, and I've got some hacky stuff in here too, in the scene, is we're hard coding the audio emitter, which we only have one right now. We're hard coding that to 6. Which is what the hard-coded sound that was in our initial application was pointing to. So that's hard-coded there, so that should effectively be the same thing, right? And so we'll have to take a look at that versus this guy and see exactly what's going on with that. Essentially what should happen, because of the way that these are ordered, is when we get our handles back, right? We should have the test audio file, that little pulse sound that you hear, should be index 0. The test music should be index 1. And the fire, since it's loaded much, much later, should be index 2 in terms of what the handle is. So we're going to take a look at that and just make sure that the handle is actually returning to us what we expect. And so let's take a look at that by going to scene, and we'll go ahead and put in a breakpoint. Let's see, we need load, and we want audio emitters, right? So we can go ahead and confirm everything that's coming in here as well, actually. So we'll go ahead and put a breakpoint there. I already had these here before, but I haven't actually checked this out yet. So we'll go there, and then we'll also go to the testbed game, and we'll do test sound, and we'll do a breakpoint here where we trigger that, and we'll also do a breakpoint here where we acquire it, and we'll do another breakpoint here where we acquire the music. And then the test music, where we play that, we'll do another breakpoint, right? And that's hard-coded to play on channel 7. Now, obviously, we're not going to be hard-coding channels, right? This is just the testbed application. We're just trying things out. But that's kind of the plan for now, at least, right? Just to kind of make sure that things work the way that they should before we actually... Oh, cool. Failed to load test audio file. Was I getting that before? Let me just build real quick. I should probably also do a quick check on the asset manifest. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see, we have test audio, right? So that's here. That points to sounds test KAF, and it imports test OG. So I guess we can, just to clarify, we can come in here to collapse some of these things. We can come in here to our sounds, right? And we have our source sounds here. So test OG is what this test audio sound is, right? So that's this guy. right? And then we have, let's see, unlock we're not using yet. And then we have fire loop, which is the other one I'm expecting to hear, right? So that is assets sounds fire loop. And that is pointing to this fire loop og file, right? Which is just this guy. That's what I'm expecting to hear, right? And so we have those assets imported correctly here. I'm pretty sure they are correct. I guess we can, oops. We can, I didn't mean to open a terminal there. Hit the wrong dang button. We can do reveal and explore. Right, and so, that test sound is only 16K and the fire loop is 762K. So I'm fairly confident that those are correct, right? If we look at the sources, and we look at test og, this is 6K, and we look at the fire loop, and that's 144K, right? So I'm pretty confident that that's right. We're converting it to PCM. We're not compressing it yet. So I'm pretty confident that those are what they should be. If we take a look also at music, right, we have the Woodland Fantasy KAF here. That's our imported file. It's 27 megs versus the MP3, which is 317K. Obviously, wait, sorry, that's not the right one. This one, 5 megs, right? Obviously, we need to put compression into place, but that is going to be the next step after we get all of these systems working, right? So for reference, if we want to go here to music and source, we are loading this one, which is the stereo version of this, right? And that's just that, right? So as far as I can see, everything is pointing correct in here. So if we pull it up by this name, it should be giving us this asset or importing this one if this one doesn't yet exist, right? So I don't see any issues with the asset manifest, and that hasn't changed in quite some time. So I don't think it's that. I can rule that out safely, I believe. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and run, right? Okay, so we're going to do an audio acquire, and I think I'm just going to skip over this right now because what I really want to see is what it assigns to the base resource and instance, right? And so let's go ahead and skip over that, and we can see here that this is the first sound that we're loading, right? So we have the base resource is index 0 in the system. That makes sense. And this is the first instance of that. So its handle index is also 0. So that does make sense. If I go here to acquire the Woodland Fantasy, and I skip over that, if we take a look at that, then we have handle index 1. So that is the second sound resource, right? But it is the first instance of it. So the handle for the instance is still 0. So that also tracks. So if we continue, this is where we're going to play the test music. And again, we're just verifying that handle, right? So let's go ahead and step into this guy and see if we can figure out why it's playing that very first sound. Base resource, we're going to go ahead and get the base pointer to the base handle data, right? So the first thing we check is the handle valid and pristine, meaning it's not stale, right? So that check essentially runs all of this stuff. It makes sure that the handle's valid, makes sure that the handle index is less than the max resource count, which is 32. So we're well within the bounds there. Obviously, I'll raise that limit at some point. And then it also does a pristine check of the handle against the unique ID here. Of the resource at that handle index, right? So that should return true, right? And we'll just kind of step into some of these things here. And it did return true, right? Because we didn't go into here, so that's good. And so we go ahead and we return index 1 for that, right? And that's going to give us the handle to the base resource. So that should be good. Then we just check to make sure that exists. Obviously it does. And if we hover over this, we can actually take a look at the resource name here. Or actually, yeah, we can take a look at the resource name. So let's go to the debug console and just put that in here. Oops, did I not copy it? I must not have. I guess it's going to be base resource, and then what did I say? Resource name, right? So base resource name. Okay, Woodland Fantasy. That is what we expect. Let's also take a look at the resource. So the resource name here, we can actually just copy the name right out of here, right? So I'm just going to copy the name value here out of resource base name, right? And we're going to do the same check, but this is essentially what's happening under the hood is we're just passing that number. Whoops, how did I not? Pretty sure I hit copy. I can already tell you it's going to be the same because these numbers match, right? But we'll go ahead and do it anyways. So copy value, and then we will paste this in here, right? Woodland Fantasy, right? So that is correct as well. And then we'll take a look at instance data. So that's going to look into that instance array off of the base resource. And so the base resource is here, right? And it has our instances array here. So let's see. If we step into that real quick, I guess we're just going to do that pristine and valid check again. And this time it is passing, let me make sure we pass the actual right handle to it. I believe we did. Yeah, we passed the instance handle here. Okay, so that is correct. All right, so we do a pristine check on that, it passed. And then we do base instances sub instance handle index, which is going to be the first one in the array. So that also is what we expect as well, right? And so we can do a unique check also. We can check this unique ID. It's like 3727, right? And if we look at instance, the unique ID is 3727, blah, 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 right? So that is the same as well. And now if we go ahead and get the channel, right? The channel index that we passed in was 7, right? And so if we go into here, we just make sure we do a couple checks, right? Note that this channel index is signed, right? So if you pass something that is negative, then what it's going to do is it's going to comb through all the channels and take the first available channel. But if it is greater than or equal to 0, then it's going to go ahead and check to make sure it's within range first, and then grab the channel at that index, which is what we're going to do this time around. So again, our channel index is 7. That is less than 8, so we are good. And then we return the address of channel sub 7, right? So that too is what we expect. And if we take a look at this, we do see index 7 within the channel. We don't have anything bound right now. We're about to do that, right? So we do a check to make sure that we actually got something back. And then we set the bound resource to base resource, which is this guy. And we set the bound instance to the instance data that we retrieved here. And then what we do is we go ahead and we set a trigger play flag on the instance data. And then this will get picked up on the next update loop and checked to see if it can actually be played. The reason we do that is because, remember, our asset loading is to be treated as it's asynchronous. So we don't know for a fact by the time that this runs, if we say, acquire asset and then immediately play afterwards, chances are that asset may not be loaded. And so when we say play, it's really a request to play. And then it will keep trying to play that until the asset is actually loaded and the resource is ready to be played. And then it will actually play. So to do that, we set this trigger here. And like I said, on the next update, it will get, let's see, do I have it? Yeah, I need this breakpoint here. On the next update for the audio system, it'll say, hey, do we have a trigger to play on this particular channel, and is the resource valid? So we do a is valid check on the resource here, which checks a whole bunch of stuff. It checks to see if the bound resource unique ID is not invalid ID 64, and that we have a bound resource, which we probably should be doing that check first, actually. We probably should be doing that check first so we don't segfault, right? So we check to see if we have a bound resource at all. Then we check to see if the bound resource unique ID is not invalid ID. And then we do a check on the bound resource that the base state of that resource is actually loaded, right? And so there's that. So I'll go ahead and continue. And we passed that test, right? We knew we were going to, just because of where this breakpoint is, and that's fine. So again, we have trigger play set, and is valid is true. And so this, at this point, should be saying, okay, channel play the resource. And so what should be happening is we should be saying the backend should be playing the bound resource, internal resource. In other words, by the handle. So this internal resource, I found the issue. There it is, right there. Do you guys see the problem? Does that look like a valid handle to you guys? Hint, no, it's not. So, what we have here is uninitialized memory, right? And so this is the entire problem. So why are we not setting internal resource when we load? That's going to be up to acquire, I believe. So when we do acquire here, we do have a base resource, right? And this is ultimately what should be getting set on the audio, let's see, on the audio instance. Yeah, we should probably be doing, let's see. When we make this request, this is the audio request here for the actual assets and all that stuff. When it loads, that's when we should be doing it, right? So we have the data resource getting set here. And let's see, the listener, I believe, also has some data that we're going to need. Let me switch over to my other editor here. And let's see, front end 950. So let's see. We are, that doesn't seem right. Okay. I was just a couple lines off. All right. So audio resource loaded. Here is the base, right? So we get the base handle data. We set the resource here, but we need to say now, I guess we'll do data resource, internal resource, right? We need to set this handle. And we're going to set that to listener instance base resource, right? So we need to sync the resources internal handle to the base resource handle we track in this system, right? And that's the same handle that also translates to the OpenAL backend. So I am actually reasonably confident that this is going to work. So what I'm going to do is while that's building, I'm going to come back over here to my debugger, and I'm going to turn off all these breakpoints. And we're going to run. I thought I turned off all the breakpoints. Did I not? Oh, I missed one. Okay. And now our music's playing. Perfect. All right. So if we load up the scene now. All right, we still got something going on. I am willing to bet it was fine until... Let's see, we got some errors in there. Let's examine the log. Console log. Let's see, error. Okay, that's just terrain stuff. We don't care about that. Oh, interesting. We got some OpenAL errors. Looks like we got quite a few of them too. And this was when I was trying to play. So I was spamming the F key, which is the hotkey to play our test sound. In amongst all of these other errors, which we really need to fix this too. But where are we getting invalid operation on all of that? Okay, so let's go into our OpenAL backend, and we'll do check error. And I'm going to put a breakpoint here where we actually, anytime we throw an error, so that way we catch that stuff when it happens. So we're going to go ahead and launch. Right, and go ahead and load. And right off the bat, we have an error. And this is, we can see right here from the logs, this is when we're trying to load our file loop. So what is happening here? We know it's invalid operation, right? Which unfortunately OpenAL kind of sucks with their error messages, right? But let's see what we are trying to do. So AL source queue buffers. Okay, so backend channel play resource. Okay, so this is the play that we're calling right here. So internal resource should be 2, which is the correct handle for the fire sound, right? Let's just take a look at, let's see, I guess we'll drill down a little bit further in here. Why is this saying invalid operation? I wonder if maybe it isn't loaded yet. Maybe we're still not catching that somehow. Okay, so it's saying we broke here, which really means that the error was here, right? Because we're in that, which means it was called after this, I assume. Because we're not streaming, right? So we would have dropped into this branch. So the source ID is 7. That does make sense. Because I think that was supposed to be playing on channel 6. And the source ID, OpenAL sources are 1 based, right? So it's going to be 1 up from that, which is one of the reasons that we track the ID separately, because actually sometimes these can be completely out of order as well. So we say we're triggering, or we're queuing a buffer on ID 7. We're doing 1 buffer, and then a data buffer is going to be the number of the buffer, which is just the ID of the buffer. So that's when we do AL gen buffers, which is like GL gen buffers. If you've used OpenGL, that's how we generate a buffer. Why are we getting invalid invalid ID on that. I guess one other thing we should probably check. We do have, I thought, channel ID valid. I did think that we actually had a valid check in OpenAL to see if the resource was valid. And now I can't think of it because I don't actually see it here anywhere. So let's ask Google Sensei. OpenAL check if buffer valid. Determine when a buffer has been played without polling. The source in OpenAL. That's not really helpful. Okay. Good old Stack Overflow. OpenAL Programmer's Guide. Let's see, error handling. We have all of that, so I don't think it's going to be anything there. Buffer functions. Let's look at source functions. We want source. Were we saying source play? Is that where we were? Or was it source queue buffers is what it was. Here we go. Let's see. This function queues a set of buffers on a source. All buffers attached to a source will be played in sequence. And the number of process buffers can be detected using AL source I to retrieve AL buffers processed. Okay, so invalid operation. There's no current context. An attempt was made to add a new buffer, which is not the same format as the buffers already in the queue. Or the source has already has a static buffer attached. Okay, so we know it's not that last thing, but this format issue might be something. So isn't there... I think it's unqueue buffers. I guess we could try... We could try unqueuing buffers first. I thought we were doing that in here somewhere, but I guess not. And I think that's actually causing another bug that I realized is in here too. So maybe what we need to do is that. Let's see. Why did you make your own audio format? Because it was a lot. I'm trying to keep libraries out of the runtime. And I'm trying to make us loading our assets as fast as possible, which is why we have our own format for a lot of stuff. Our audio format is just PCM, right? It's just basic PCM right now, but we are going to be putting in encoding. And I think I have an encoder that I've chosen. I want to take it for a test drive before I actually nail it down, but we are going to be encoding our audio. And we will be using a small library for that, but I didn't want to have a bunch of different libraries in the runtime. I wanted to have them function as importers. And then once I can turn the music back on for a bit. And then once we actually get, is this actually playing now, or is it just? There we go. And so once we get to the point where we're ready to do that, I'll announce it and we'll kind of go through it. Could be binding a buffer source which is already bound. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbind everything, which I should be doing anyways, and I'm not doing. And I'm thinking that might be the issue. So Catalyst Music, how's it going? Buffer, don't even know her. That's hilarious. Bogan Bits, how's it going? First time chatter. So Vulcan, huh? Yes, Vulcan indeed. Do you have a triangle yet? Yes, I have much more than a triangle, actually. We're doing sound at the moment, but yeah, I suppose I can. If you can put up with some really weird sound issues for a second, I will continue the debugger so that you can actually see where we're at. Right, so this is kind of what it looks like so far. So I have terrain disabled right now, but we do have terrain as well. But we have a PBR pipeline set up. And yeah, so the audio issue right now I'm trying to actively fix. That's why it's kind of looping weird. But yeah, we have much more than triangle. Didn't know Vulcan did sound, it doesn't. I'll come up with intelligent jokes any second now. Nice. Meek Max, how's it going? Another first time chatter. A lot of you guys tonight. Welcome. Very happy to have you guys here. Are you going to require a specific import format, or will you later convert to your own format? So we already support two formats, which is OGG and MP3. Wave is on the list, and then I'm also going to add something called the OK audio format, which is pretty good from what I've seen. And that's actually, I wasn't going to let the cat out of the bag, but that's actually the encoder/decoder that I'm test driving now to see where we wind up on that. LaFoley, good to see you as well. How's it going? What game are you making? So up to this point, we've solely been making an engine, right? And so I do actually have, since there's a lot of new folks here, I should probably give a quick intro anyways. We're a little bit overdue on that. So I'll just take just a couple minutes here just to kind of go through that. So what we're making is the Kohi game engine, right? So it's a game engine written from scratch in C using Vulkan. So we're trying to minimize use of libraries. I'm okay with using a library for importing, but I'm trying to keep them out of the core engine as much as possible. And so we're building it entirely on camera, although sometimes I do some stuff off camera just to keep kind of things moving forward. But we do stream to YouTube and Twitch. And so the idea here is we wanted to make a cross-platform, free and open source engine from scratch as a resource, like an educational resource on a way of building a game engine. It's not necessarily always the correct way. It's not even necessarily the best way. But the reason we do this is we trial and error. We try different things out to see what works, what doesn't work, do deep dives into things when they don't work as to why. And that includes things like debugging, which I think is incredibly valuable and too many people skip over. And so the engine itself is open source and cross-platform. It does run on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. We wrote those platform layers ourselves. That is not a library. And then, as I mentioned, it's open source, so it is here on GitHub. The current version that we are working on is the 0.80 release, and this is the release that we're going to be starting our game development on. But nevertheless, the engine itself is Apache 2.0 licensed, which means that you can use it for whatever you want. All that I ask is that you say that you used it. And that includes either personal or commercial projects, does not matter. There'll never be any sort of licensing fees or royalties of any kind. Again, this is supposed to be like an educational thing, so I believe that stuff should be openly accessible. I don't have any sponsors or anything like that aside from you guys. So you guys are my sponsors, but that's it. So I think that just about covers that, right? The project as a whole. In terms of, let me just pull up the game design document. So in terms of the game, we don't have a name for it yet. We started putting out some kind of high concept ideas. I actually want to modify this a bit. I've come up with some more ideas, but The initial concept was an endless runner style game where the player pilots a vehicle, like a motorcycle, spaceship, a boat, things like that, that travels along a rotor path that has obstacles to avoid and enemies to engage in combat with. And so the player will have various types of vehicles, each having different abilities and various environments with their own challenges. Difficulty increases as the game goes on. Later levels may have vertical tracks, which the player can switch to using a flying vehicle, for example. So, the example I like to use here is, the vehicles are not tied to a level. You can use any vehicle for any level, assuming it's capable of traversing said level, i.e., you can't use a motorcycle on a water level. So, for example, the first level would be initially traversed with a hoverboard. That's the first vehicle you're going to get. But if the player returns later upon getting the spaceship, there could be extra content in the above tracks vertically that you wouldn't have been able to see before that you can now access. So there's that. Technology and platforms, all that stuff. I can kind of skip that. We've got some laying out here of like what some of the different vehicles and upgrades and that kind of stuff is. It's a little bit reminiscent of the old Road Rash 3D game. It's kind of a combination between that and the Final Fantasy VII Escape from Midgar little mini game, right? So we're building an entire game around that concept, and so we're thinking like visually we're thinking like a retro futuristic combined with sort of a painterly style / Borderlands kind of look, right? So the sort of setting is retro futuristic, but the visual style is somewhere between this and this, right? And so that is more or less the game that we're going to make. And that's going to be the first game that we're going to make on this relatively simple game, just to sort of run the engine through its paces. And then after that, I've got a much more large game and more complicated game in mind. Unlimited Star Wars pod racer. I mean, kinda, maybe. There might be a vehicle like that. If you've ever played the Wipeout games, it's kind of, similar to that, is what I'm thinking. LaFoley with the triple dingus. Nice. 3-stream streak. Awesome. Let's see. Okay. Surprised you didn't go with mini audio instead of OpenAL. So, that is the reason that we have a plugin architecture, right? So OpenAL was just kind of the one that I chose, namely due to its licensing and the amount of material you can get on it out there. But we're not locked into it, right? So similar to how we have a plugin, a renderer plugin for Vulkan, we have an audio plugin for OpenAL. So if we wanted to use, mini audio or Fmod or Miles sound system even or something like that, right? You could technically make a plugin for that and just choose it in your application config and use that instead. So there's going to be multiples of these, but since we're just sort of laying out the systems now, we're starting with one. Let's see. Are you at a point where we can get a GPU to do some real-time audio processing with decent lag, say less than 10 milliseconds, while also rendering graphics? Nope. Not doing anything that fancy. At least not yet, right? The goal with this is to keep things as simple as possible, at least for right now. And then once we have everything working, then we enhance it, right? Let's see. Spiro, how's it going, man? Good to see you. 3-stream streak as well. The triple dingus for you as well. I kind of want Vulkan, but for audio. Careful what you wish for. I have a love-hate relationship with Vulkan, for sure. Let's see. One thing that really annoys me about audio programming is I can't really find anything for doing it at low level. Yeah, and if you try to implement that at an OS level, at the platform level, it's even worse. There's documentations for WAS API or whatever, but can't really find anything comprehensive on what current in-use APIs exist other than that, or like a lot of theory into doing it. Yeah. Are we finally continuing the game? So we are done with the refactor. What we're doing now is we are enhancing our sound system to support audio emitters, right? Because we kind of need those to start the game, which is the first feature we have to get in to start the game. So we are circling back around to that, yes. So we're just debugging some issues around audio at the moment. Probably what's going to wind up happening is we're going to get this working with the small list of features that we need just to kind of get it going, and then we'll start, scaffolding the actual game, which I actually kind of already started doing a while ago, and I'm probably going to have to throw it out and start over. But we have this this folder here for Zgame, Kapp, and Klib. I may wind up having to redo those, but we'll see. All right. Good evening, by the way. I appreciate that. Yeah, good evening to you, too. It's good to see you. Magatsub, how's it going? WAS API is actually quite nice after you've gone through the hassle of setting it up. Yeah, so that's... But the thing is, like, I didn't want to have to implement a sound layer. I mean, Windows has, 3? Mac OS has 2 or 3. Linux has, 6, right? So, T10 Mac, how's it going? First time chatter. What about Super Collider? Is that like a Vulkan but for audio? I don't know. I've never even heard of that one, actually. Okay. This is why I use things like Mini Audio and SDL. Yeah, so SDL is pretty decent, right? That's got a pretty decent API for it, right? But we're going as low level here as we can. So if I were to make a project just like a one-off that I didn't care about the code base and I was just going to throw it away after release, I'd probably do that. T10 Mac, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. It's an audio programming language. Okay. I'll have to look into that. Mystified, how's it going? First time chatter as well. A lot of you new folks in here tonight. Welcome. Hanging out here since Spiro is slacking off. That sounds about right. He's in the chat as well. Not trying to evangelize, but the multitude of stuff is not interesting to me. Yeah, so, and that was one of the reasons why I went the OpenAL route instead of writing all that platform stuff, because that just sounded like a grind I did not want to deal with, right? But I do like having the control that this offers me. Okay, so where even were we? Right, I needed to unqueue some of these sound buffers. So let's see, that was 5:15, right? So whoops. Oh, I can turn the music back on, actually. All right, so this, I'm pretty sure, is another issue that we're already having. And maybe it's just we're queuing the same thing more than once. I don't know. It might be that. It might not be. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. So we had the spec pulled up here. And we want to call this AL source I to retrieve buffers processed. I think I'm doing that somewhere else, actually. Yeah, here we go. So this is only in stream update, but I think what I really just need is this. Right? We need that. So whenever we play, we need to basically unqueue anything that's there. And we may want to change this behavior. I'm not 100% sure. But let's just do unqueue any existing buffers that are queued. Now, that is buffers processed, but that's not the only thing that I want, right? Let's see. Wasn't there a AL buffers processed, right? But I feel like there was another AL buffers queued. We should probably do both of those. That's what it was. So buffers processed means that that's already been played, right? And so it just means that the buffer has been processed, right? It's been queued up, it's been played, and it's done. Buffers queued means that the buffer was queued but never actually processed. We actually want to clear both of those. So I don't know if there's a way that I can do. Those aren't bitwise fields, so I can't combine them. So I guess, yeah, we're going to have to do, we'll do process buffers, and then we'll take another one of these. Oops, wrong key. And we'll do queued buffers, right? And we can do queued buffer count. I'm going to do that here and there, and then do AL buffers queued. All right, and so essentially all we're doing is we're just unqueuing the buffer, throwing away the buffer ID because we don't care. And that should be all we need to do. So we essentially do that. Now, what I might do is put a trace here. So we can say something like play unqueued processed buffer, and then outputs. Let's see, this is an integer, right? So we'll do processed. Oops. No, it's a uint, rather. Buffer ID. Right? And so we'll do this, and we'll do this, and this is going to be unqueued, queued buffer. And that way, hopefully, we can see some of that stuff pop up in the logs, right? So I don't know if this is going to solve it or not. I'm going to pause the music again while we build this and go to run it. Let's see. Look, I have actual working kid and stuff. Cut me some slack. Yeah, I get it, Spiro. I get it. Let's see. I was thinking something that could be used to create audio shaders on a GPU. I mean, that would be interesting, right? To get that to work. Create a pipeline out of a bunch of them to create a real-time audio stream. This could probably be done by repurposing OpenGL or Vulkan, but I'm also concerned about scheduling. Not only that, but also the latency that you would incur by going to and from the GPU back to the sound card and all that stuff. There'd be some latency there for sure. Quick question, if you have the knowledge with networking and ECS model in games, trying to write a Rust SDL client for a friend's web game that used WebSockets for communication. I wanted to try using Specs as ECS engine, not that familiar with Rust or ECS model, still learning. I struggle to split logic for processing and incoming, outgoing WebSocket messages versus transmitting updates from incoming data for updating the ECS. Tried different approaches and ended in deadlocks, multi-threading, bad performance, incoherent behaviors. Any advice you can give to me? Well, my first advice would be take ECS out of the equation. It's just complicating things, right? Throw that idea away. Get stuff working without the ECS first. And then if you absolutely need the ECS, put it in. I generally argue that you don't, right? But outside of that, there are, it depends on what you're doing in terms of, and I guess it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how much latency and whatnot you can stand, right? Because there's different priorities with that stuff. Like if it's player movement or something, generally you'd want to run through and only take like the latest packet and make sure that you bounds check your moves so that they can't move faster than they actually should be able to move. Make sure that the client isn't sending you BS. But also you have to write your physics simulation in such a way where it can also take in updates from the network as they come in, but also still run normally as you might expect. What a lot of games do is they'll use like a prediction. So like the player will start running in a particular direction, and then the client will just keep simulating that until the server comes back and corrects it, and then it'll just issue minor corrections. And usually if you do that enough, that's usually good enough, right? You usually don't have to be too accurate with that unless you're doing something like a FPS or something like that, right? But yeah, there's I would say, and you're also trying to do multi-threading on top of that, which I also probably would not recommend until you actually get it working, right? Because if you don't need the multi-threading, I wouldn't do that. It's kind of open-ended though, right? Because like everybody's requirements are different. Think you've ranted too much and scared people away? I don't know, maybe. You can do audio shading and shader toy. Really? I guess I've never thought to try that. Okay. All right. This is built. Bad comic, by the way. Good to see you. I was there when you made those, the Z game and the Z game lib. Yeah, that was a while ago. Okay, so let's actually try and run this and see what our sounds are actually doing now. All right, so far so good. Let's load. We got another error. Okay, so this is interesting. Unqueued, queued buffer 0. But buffer 0, this might be where the error is coming from. So one thing that I saw in the docs, where did that go? I got too many dang windows open. All right. Did I close that? I might have done. I didn't think I had, but apparently I might have actually closed it. Do I still have it open? Oh, here it is. Okay. It was just hidden behind this guy. So where did I see that? I think it was maybe here. Yeah. Remarks, the buffer name 0 is reserved for a null buffer and is accepted by source AI, or source AL source I for AL buffer blah 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 as a valid buffer of 0 length. The null buffer is extremely useful for detaching buffers from a source which were attached with this call or AL. So why would they put that remark here and not here? This documentation is terrible. Okay. So number of buffers to be queued, pointer to an array of buffer names to be queued. Right, so the buffer name, are we passing 0 to that at some point? because it's interesting that we're saying here, unqueued, a queued buffer is 0. So, actually what I want to see is I want to actually see this hit a breakpoint, right? All right, so I've got the thing here. I'm going to load the scene. Okay. So, the queued buffer count was 1, so we did indeed have one that was queued. I wonder if it is... Let me set this to something stupid. Right, let me just do invalid ID, I guess, right? Let me see if that gets overwritten. I'm going to move the breakpoint up by 1. Thanks for the advice. Not time to rewrite a lot of code. I hear that pain for sure. Engine complication system or something? Is that oh, the fun moniker for ECS? Entity complication system. Yeah. That was actually Coffee Lava's term, but I liked it so much that I'm kind of just rolling with it. All right, so let's do this again. All right, so this is set to invalid ID, right? So I just want to make sure that this is actually popping out, so it's not updating it. Interesting. So why is it taking this parameter in if it's not updating it? We want unqueue buffers. Buffer names that were removed. But it doesn't seem to actually be... It doesn't seem to actually be removing it, right? Because what we're passing here is the address of buffer ID, right? Which is just this guy. We're just removing one at a time. I would expect this to come back with the actual buffer ID that it's removing, but it's not. Okay, so I guess the next thing that it was doing was, well, log output, fine. Definitely shouldn't be doing that more than once, right? Because I will bet if we do, it's going to do this afterwards. This while loop is foobar. We shouldn't be doing it this way. Let's just use the regular for, right? Regular boomer loop. U32. It's actually an I32. I equals 0. I is less than queued buffer counts plus I, right? That is because that should not be going through twice if we only have one. Okay. So I don't know. What's the return type of this? Is there anything here? I don't think so. No. Buffer IDs. Okay. So I guess the next thing I need to check is what buffer we're trying to load in here, right? And you know what? Actually, I should probably catch this every single time, right? Just to be on the safe side. at least while we're still, you know, kind of debugging this. Entity component skill issues? Hardly. Entity component memory fragmentation. Complication. Unnecessary. ECS itself isn't a hard concept. The only thing that's complicated is to implement it gracefully. So it's not complicated, technically, right? Conceptually. It's very easy to understand conceptually. The problem, the complication part comes in the code that it adds and the overhead that it adds, making that easy to use interface, right? It introduces a bunch of new problems, as LaFoley says. Yeah. It introduces a bunch of extra stuff you just don't need, frankly. All right, so let's actually... I guess if we hit an error with this, then... Oh, I wonder if we were actually hitting an error for here, down here, because we weren't checking it. Okay. All right, let's just run. All right, and load. Instantly hit an OpenAL error. All right, so... Does that mean... unqueued buffer, blah, blah, blah. And then we instantly hit an error here. Now, why would this be throwing an error? Source ID 7. So that's going to be channel 6. So yeah, this is our emitter trying to play, right? So we have 2 queued buffers. This isn't a stream, right? And we're on iteration 0, and we actually hit an error. What's the error? It's probably useless. Invalid value. Invalid value. Okay, I feel like there's some context here I'm not understanding. Number of buffers to be unqueued. So invalid, at least one buffer cannot be unqueued because it has not been processed yet. Yeah, but what if it's just queued and not... Okay. That actually lines up because these are unprocessed. The unqueue operation will only take place if all n buffers can be removed from the queue. So that probably explains why it wasn't updating our pointer to a buffer, right? Because it's failing with this. So that means that we fed in somewhere. Somehow we managed to queue this twice. How have we done that? So audio system updates. Oh, because of a stupid hard-coded thing I put in here. Whoopsie. That's my bad. So I was testing something, and I was actually jamming everything into the same channel to see if that was it. And this should be channel index. I just forgot to change it back. Whoopsie. Pebcac error. Yep. That is dingus-oriented programming for you right there. Glad I could provide that for you guys tonight. What is ECS meant to achieve? It's for data locality. Depending on how it's written. It's meant to achieve composition, basically. The ability to cobble together components onto an entity and have them all work together and have them all be their own separate little things that sort of manage themselves. Where in reality, like, that works great when you're putting things together in an editor, but when you're actually making a real game, especially something that's super complicated, it can kind of get in the way. All right, so let's try this again. Now that we got some dingus-oriented programming out of the way. Okay, so we didn't hit any of these, which is good. Okay, and so we're loading buffer ID 12 in there, so we're not, I should probably change this to a conditional breakpoint. What I want to find out is anytime data buffer is equal to 0, that's when I want it to break, not otherwise. Hey, we have our fire sound. Awesome. So it doesn't look like our distance thing isn't working. So we'll have to fix that. I think that is because of all this stuff going on here. So I think, yeah, because this right here, so this box that exists right there, that is actually a marker for where the emitter is supposed to be. But the configuration for that actually says that it should be offset by 1. So that is obviously not being read in correctly, so we need to figure out why. So to do that, what we need to do, first off, we need to find out why we're getting all of those. I should have put a breakpoint on that instead of killing everything. Let me kill all of these. And then, what was that error message that was spamming the crap out of us? Let's do this. Invalid handle passed to xform world get. Turning identity matrix. Oops. So I want to find this message. I guess I have to copy it this way. Don't care about the console. It's an xform system 381, right? So we're going to put a breakpoint there. And load again. All right, so where are we? Surrender frame prepare. This is coming from an audio emitter, so I'm not surprised it's wrong. And xform world get xform handle. And that is indeed invalid. I can tell because I know what those numbers are. This is invalid ID for a handle index, and then this is invalid ID for the unique ID. So that means that our hierarchy graph xform handle gets our attachment hierarchy node handle is 0. We don't have one. So I guess let's search for point lights. Actually, I'm going to switch back to the other editor, right? Because I probably missed something here. So point lights. And we want to do probably not scene update, because that's probably also going to give us the same problem. Scene load. I think this is where, let's see, this is where we actually, no, we should have the xform before then. I'm thinking it's going to be an initialize. Yeah, so the point lights, what the point light does, here we go, is xform position set, debug box xform. Let's see. This does not have a parent xform. I think xform create. Let's see. So that's going to be in our xform system. That should just basically be an identity transform. Yep. Okay. All right. So it should already have that. That's in box 3D create. Okay, so box 3D create should give us that. Let's see. Let's go down here and look at this one. So we're doing box 3D create for the audio emitter. If that's successful, then we set that position to new emitter data position. I wonder if that is not coming through as we expect, because that should take a vector 3. Let's set a debug point there, because I just want to see if that is working the way that we think it is. So, wait. It's going to be, let's see, node initialize. So, right. Ooh, that's right. I was testing this too to make sure that that was not the issue. I don't think it was the issue. Let me put that back. And then let's put a breakpoint here on the position. Let's actually put a breakpoint there. And initialize. Did we have to add anything to the hierarchy graph for point lights? I don't think that we did. But let's debug this and see what we're getting first. All right, let's bring this down, load. All right, so we create the 3D box. The position is 0. We're not reading that in, apparently. Okay. Oh, interesting. We're not reading in a bunch of stuff. That's probably why our radius isn't working as well. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Okay, so we have type attachment config position. What is being loaded in here? So these 3 were just simply not copying over. I can see that right there, plain as day. But the position, for some reason, is not making it either. So we probably need to debug that as well. But before we do that, let me just go in here and we want to set the... Thank you for the follow, by the way. Appreciate that. Welcome. So we want to do new emitter data. And we want to do... I guess we'll do inner radius first. Equals type attachment config, inner radius, new emitter, data, outer radius is type attachment config, outer radius, new emitter, data, fall off equals type attachment, fall off. Okay, so now we need to check and see why this volume isn't actually coming through, because that was 0. So I'm wondering actually if that is our serializer just not doing something correct. So scene serializer. So we have this deserialize attachment. If we don't find a position, then we use vector 3.0, which does kind of make sense. Let me look at the test scene. Did I not set a position like a dingus? Oh, wait a minute. I see the problem. I see the problem. I was mistaken on how I was thinking about this. Okay, so this configuration should not actually have a position of its own. This position should come from the transform of the node that it's attached to. Okay, all right, so that was a foobar on my part, so that should not have position, which means this can go bye. Go bye-bye. And this can go bye-bye. That's the serializer. All right. And then in scene, obviously this is going to be wrong. So what we need to do is we need to grab the transform of the node that owns this, right? So like I guess it would be the node config. Which has the, that has the xform source on it. Did we... Do we actually have a way to retrieve that? I think we do. Xform handle. Yeah, so right here. Xform handle. So we should be able to get that Xform from string. Okay. So we actually should be able to get emitter data position. That's going to be interesting. So the emitter data is also going to have to be responsible for retrieving the position, because this shouldn't be here either, technically. Or we just set it all the time. So I guess, all right, let's take position, right? And we'll go ahead and get the transform, right? So we'll say if k handle is valid, and we'll do xform handle, right? Then we'll do xform position get, pass xform handle, right? That will give me a vector 3, right? So we need vec 3, and I guess we'll just do pause, right? Equals vec 3 0. So that'll be our default, and then we can do an override here of pause equals that, right? And then we can just set this to pause, right? And then what we're also going to have to do is we're going to have to make sure that that's up to sync, right? Or that's in sync, right? So whenever we move this node or a parent of it moves or something, right? We're going to need, oh, you know what? Xform position get is not the way we're going to want to do that, because that's not going to be transformed. I don't think. It'll give us the initial result that'll be correct, but I think when we go to move it, it's going to be a problem. Unless we are... All right, let's actually just try this first. Let's make sure that this works the way that I think it's going to. Oh, might help to shut the program off. Got to do that in Windows. Not used to having to do that, because in Linux, it doesn't care. JT Gill, how's it going? Good to see you. Hard code for the win, yeah. Yeah, or for the loss sometimes. Standard Pointer, how's it going? Good to see you as well. Line 529, remove invalid ID for good measure. That was in the, I assume you're talking about what was in the audio backend. Yeah, so the reason I did this is because I initially had it to 0, right? And the reason I did this is because I wanted to see if this was actually updating this value here, if it was truly just 0. And it wasn't updating it because of the other issue that we were running into. But it seems now that we have actually fixed that, so yeah. All right. I love the absolute absurd contrast of postmodern hellscape, flood due to global warming, and the medieval end music. Yeah, exactly. Yep. It was just, you know what it was? It was just free assets that I found around, you know, that I could test with, that were reasonable, right? That didn't have, you know, crazy licenses attached to them or something. What if a detachment may have positions relative to its parents in the parent's coordinate space, and the update loop updates the parents and attachment positions accordingly? So that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing with the data position, right? I think what I'm going to be able to do is essentially use that to offset it later on if I want to. Honestly, with audio, I don't think I'm going to have to be that surgical with it, but I do need to make sure that it follows around as I expect. So let's go ahead and run this. All right. And, oh, okay. I don't need these breakpoints anymore. I can actually, I think, turn these off. And we're still getting Xform errors. Interesting. But it did actually move. So that's interesting, right? So this is actually offset to where I thought it was supposed to be. It looks like... yeah, the distance thing still isn't working, but maybe we don't have that applied correctly. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, so we're still getting... oh, I should have put a breakpoint on this. Why are we still getting this? Okay. Oh, because I didn't put it on the attachment? I forgot attachments could have those. So actually, literally what I was just thinking of having to do, I don't even have to do because attachments can have it. Okay, so what I should be doing is, and I thought we were doing this already, actually. So this is the X form position get, which that's technically working, but not because of the way that it's supposed to be doing the thing. We need hierarchy node handle, node handle. Where is that being created? Here. Why is that coming back incorrect? I guess instead of X form handle, we should be using node handle, right? Down here. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Node handle. Oh, this is the handle to the actual X form, but not. And then this is the one for the hierarchy. I should probably rename this. Hierarchy node handle, right? So that's what gives us a hierarchy node, and then we are using the hierarchy node handle all the way down. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that what it was bleating about? Was this guy? So why does it work for point lights and it's not working for this? What am I missing? Right? Point lights and this look exactly the same. It's just a different attachment type. Literally, that's it. Theoretically, we should be getting this based off the nodes transform, right? Which is here. So we shouldn't actually have to do this, right? Because when we transform that later on, we shouldn't actually need to do that. So I should be able to do vec30 here. Whoops. Now, obviously, we'll need to update that during the update loop. Maybe that's what we're not doing. Audio emitters, let's see. So again, we pretty much need to do the same thing here. In fact, I copied pasted this, so we actually have audio. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Waiting to see overused meme-ish sounds like the infamous loon sound you hear in movies and birds. Or the Wilhelm scream. Yeah, I mean, maybe at some point, right? At some point, I'm going to have to hire an audio engineer, you know, to make me some sounds if I can't find stuff. I'm hoping to find stuff that's either free or you know, relatively inexpensive. I don't have thousands of dollars to be dumping on sound, unfortunately. Let's see. There's going to be a non-conventional game engine jam at the end of February. Kohi, maybe yes. I don't think this is quite game jam ready yet, to be frank. I haven't even made one game with it yet. We're just about to start the first game. As soon as we get audio emitters in place, we're starting the first game. And I suspect we're going to run into issues, right? I mean, we're running into issues just with this, but that's because it's brand new. I synthesize a lot of my stuff. I just don't do basic noises, beeps, and bloops. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I could, I mean, that stuff's easy enough to find too. I do eventually want to add synthesizing capability to this as well, but that's a future item. Okay, so audio emitters, emitter counts, emitter attachment. Let's just make sure we're doing the right thing all the way down here. Okay, so we're getting the Xform handle. Hierarchy graph, Xform handle get, right. Okay, so we're getting the Xform from the hierarchy graph, right? So this will give us the Xform for that. Then we do Xform world get Xform handle. So is this where the problem is? Because I think this is where our breakpoint was hitting, I think. Because I think, okay, attachment hierarchy node handle. So, if we search through where this is set, right? Let's see. No, this is serializing. I don't need that either. Node initialize, okay. Hierarchy node handle, add with Xform. Okay, none of this really matters all that much. So here we're doing this for skyboxes, we're assigning that. And then we're assigning it for directional lights. It's the same thing for point lights. It's the same thing for audio emitters. So why is that not doing the thing correctly? All right, I guess let's try this again. Right, I'm just gonna load. Hierarchy node handle. Why can't I? Why won't it let me get the hover value of that? Am I missing something here? Identifier undefined. What? But it's not undefined. It's here. Right? If I collapse these other things down, it's within scope. I guess I need to do this. And then I'm just going to load this off screen. All right, and then why isn't my debugger giving me the what? It is defined though. What are you talking about? Help me understand this. Okay, you know what? I'm going to clean and rebuild. I have a feeling there's some sort of debugging bananery going on here. Some skullduggery is afoot. Debugging skullduggery Windows, yeah. That's it. I'll just blame Windows. That's what I'll do. Okay. We'll run. Load. Okay. Handle index 0 unique ID. Okay, so that looks valid to me. So I'm going to get rid of this one, but I'm going to keep this one. Here we go. So that is a valid. That is a valid handle. So how do we get a valid handle when we are initializing? But when we go to let's see, index is 0, right? Okay, let's do this. Actually, wait a minute. Let's do attachment is because I'm a dingus. That's why. Because I'm a dingus. I see the problem. Copy pasta strikes again. All right. So what do we see right there? Womp womp. Dingus-oriented programming for the loss. This should be sound. What am I? That should be that. Cool. Whoops, that should be audio emitter. Emitter attachments. There we go. Good old dingus-oriented programming. Okay. Let's try that again, shall we? That was probably the issue the entire freaking time. All right. Okay, that looks good. All right, so let's continue. Hey, we have a valid one. All right, so let's kill that breakpoint and continue. No more error. Sweet. But where is our debug box? Where hath it wind up? I don't see it. Why has our debug box disappeared? Under the car, you said? I don't think so. No? It's just, like, gone. And it's kind of acting like it's in the right place. But it's not. So, I guess let's do frame prepare. I'm going to go ahead and get, let's see, the model matrix. I guess we could go ahead and see what the model matrix winds up being, right? Yeah, that might be why. Way the hell off somewhere else. All right, where did that come from? Okay, so the parent world matrix is actually what we expect, right? That's our node. The local matrix. The local matrix is what's wrong. Okay. So why would the local matrix be That's going to be an initialize again, I think. That's going to be when we're initially setting this stuff up. Weren't we setting the... No, we commented all that out. Position set, new emitter data position. Maybe that's it. Let's relaunch. New emitter data position is all 0. Where on earth is it getting that 4,000 from? I don't think we have anything that is... Unless we have, let's see. So the debug box itself does not have a parent transform. Its geometry is not all out of whack either. It's not even loaded yet, actually. Okay. Is it, let's see. There was a red box. It seems to be the one near the emitter last run. No. So the red box is actually the point light. And that is working kind of correctly. It's not 100% right either. But I'm just looking through here to see if I see anything. You know what? Let me actually search for point. Okay. So it's not there. Scene load. So we don't have anything that's incorrect here either. Which we're actually going to have to do a little bit of work around this too, because we need to set the emitter position. Well, I suppose we could probably update that during the update loop. I suppose we don't need to do it there. Okay, so point lights. Well, this is a wrong comment, but I don't see anything in here that looks wrong. Right, none of our point light stuff in here is incorrect. Maybe this is a bit of an issue. Maybe. Put a breakpoint there and try and find out. All right. And then frame prepare is the only other place I'm thinking that might have something wrong. But this is, by the time we get here, it's actually wrong already. So I don't see anything there that looks like it's pulling from the wrong place. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and continue, right? All right, so let's see what this world is. So that's just one, right? And then we have the position, which is all zeros, right? So we're going to transform the vector3 by that. So the audio emitter data position should be one. So that actually is working correctly. Which is why the audio sounds correct, because that's what the audio pulls from, is that. So that is actually working as we expect. Okay. Let's see. Oh. I see what's happening. I see what's happening. That 4,700 number isn't anything, actually. You see, what we're doing here is we're getting the world transform. We are calculating its offset and all that stuff. We are then taking the data position and transforming it by that transform, that world transform, right? Every single frame. We're then setting it down here again. We don't need to do that. That is already done. The only thing that we would need to do is maybe a transform multiplication if we've moved it. But this whole thing doesn't need to actually be done. I think if I get rid of that, that's going to solve the problem. Let us see. Uninitialized garbage? No, I don't think so. I think it's literally just been moving in every frame, and we happened to be like 4,700 frames in, and it was basically moving it one frame per, or 1 unit per frame, right? So let's actually just, I'm pretty confident that this is it. Boom. That was it. So basically what had happened was, you know, we're running at 60 frames a second, right? So it had already, our camera started off over here, and it already basically moved it out of view by the time we were finished loading. Yeah. I'm glad I figured that one out. That would have been really annoying had I not happened to be like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so, are we... Alright, our attenuation still isn't working correctly. Because I'm pretty sure that should be, you know, it should be reducing in volume as we move away from it. So let me go to the front end where we're applying all this stuff, because we should be applying it right here, right? So we're doing the inner radius set, outer radius set, all that stuff. So let's put a breakpoint here. And let's see, actually we want a conditional breakpoint because we want, we happen to stop on the right channel. Perfect. Wait, no, that's not the right channel. Where is it? No. 6? Yeah, it was channel 6. Yes, okay. So we should be doing setting on index 6, which is, wait, that's the music channel, right? No. 7 is the music channel. Okay, so this one should have inner radius, outer radius. Is that consistent with what we put in our configuration? I believe it is. It is not. Those are the default values. Okay, so let me see what 7 has to offer us. Okay, bound instance does not seem to be correct. And that would be why. Well, it really wouldn't be why it's not working, right? Because like these are default values, right? So we should have to be really up close to it. We should have to be really basically on top of it to hear it. Right? We should have to be within 2 units of it to hear it, and it should fall off after that. So let's see what, when I apply this. Channel ID valid, source. So the way that this works is we have a couple of different properties that we set. So we set a reference distance, which is, you can think of as the inner radius. That's why we call it the inner radius, right? In OpenAL terms, let's see, that's not what I was actually looking for. Is that the only place it's in here? Oops. Where's the actual, that's its use in code, but these are just the different cell models. Here we go. Okay. So this is the reference distance is the distance under which the volume for the source would normally drop by half, therefore being influenced by roll-off factor or AL max distance, right? And then the roll-off factor is the roll-off rate for the source. Default is 1.0. That's what we have. And then the other one we have is max distance, which is used with the inverse clamp distance model to set the distance where there would no longer be any attenuation of the source, which basically means that it should drop off. I guess inverse clamped distance model. Are we I wonder if we should I wonder if maybe we've not set that. Max distance, source functions, and what? Source properties. Okay, what was the, I think it was model. Distance model. Distance model of enumeration value. I think it was distance model that we had to set. AL distance model. Let's see. Get Boolean. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see. This is not a source function. It's not a buffer function. It's not a listener function either. State function, maybe. Distance model. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Selects the OpenAL distance model. So inverse distance clamped. What was the last thing that we... Inverse clamped distance model. Okay. How did I find that again? It was this. Okay. So this one. I wonder if it works for linear distance clamped too. And I wonder what the default is. AL distance model. These are all different ways that basically the sound falls off as you walk away from it. So I don't know if we have to set this explicitly. There's an AL none model. That's funny. Okay. Here we go. Default distance model in OpenAL is the inverse distance clamped. So that's the one we should be using anyways. So the max should be clamping that value. It should be like really close to it. All right. Let's see. Soulfoam, how's it going? Good to see you. Is that a color with a UI? Wait, is that color with a UI? Which color? Are you talking about the border color or something, or? Yeah, real LRK. That's about to be me here in a minute too. I actually have to get up and work in the morning, and I got like next to no sleep last night, so I should probably cut it off here anyway. We did resolve a bunch of bugs. We do have sound working. We do have our emitters positioning correctly in the world, which is awesome. So I just need to figure out this distance model thing so that we actually get, so that this actually works, right? Because this one should work, and then, yeah, we have no error from that. And then the outer radius should work, right? And we're just setting, again, just max distance, right, in the source ID. So again, that should work. The fall off, maybe the fall off is wrong, but that's like the roll off factor. The default is 1.0, which I think is what we have. Yeah, 1.0. So yeah, what I'm expecting should be happening is not happening for some reason. Now, I wonder, I'll try one more thing before I end the stream. I will try doing this. If I disable that stuff, maybe then we'll see if whether or not it actually attenuates. So we'll go ahead and run. Load. And now it attenuates, right? The closer we get to it, the better we hear it. So there's something. One of these properties is causing it to fail. So let me try setting the inner and outer radius without the fall off and see what happens. All right, so let's try this. Load. Yeah, the minute I enable that, it stops working. Because definitely by here, look at our position. Well, wait a minute though. Yeah, I mean, we're way over 2 units away, right? Which is what's getting passed, I think. Right, so we have 2 units and 1 unit. So basically, inside of this radius, it should be playing at 100%. Outside of this radius, it should be playing at 0. I guess let me try disabling one of these at a time. Maybe we just define the outer. All right. Yeah, even defining the outer is, it's not attenuating, right? So what if I just set the inner? Okay, that's interesting. Now we don't hear it until we get right up on it. So it's the outer that's messing it up, apparently. Right, where if we're within 1 unit of it, we hear it at 100%. And then it falls off after that. That's interesting. So... why you broke. Let's try putting the fall off in. Seems to be the outer radius that's the culprit, but we'll try the fall off as well. JavaX9 would say rookie mistake, some math is a bit off. I don't even know if it's that though, right? Because it's literally, I'm just feeding properties into OpenAL at this point. Right? Like it literally should be like a pretty sharp cutoff, right? With the outer radius set. So the outer radius is foobar for some reason. So that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Like I said, I do have to get up in the morning, so what I'm going to do is probably, well, I've got to review this before I push it up, because I think there's like some test code and stuff in here I don't necessarily want to push up. So I'm not going to push this up right now. I'll probably push it tomorrow after I have a chance to go through it. But this is where we're basically leaving off. Thank you for the stretch redeem, by the way, and thank you for the follow. What's your value for AL max distance? I don't think I'm setting that. Wait. Yes, I am. It's 2. You're talking about, that's what's getting past here. That's what's getting past here, is 2. So it's like 1 is the inner radius, 2 is the outer radius, right? And it should work, I think. So I don't know why it isn't, but for some reason it's definitely not working. Okay. It also might be. I have some ideas, but like I said, I'm out of time. So let me find somebody to view, or to raid, rather. And we'll see if we can't find somebody that is doing something somewhat related. If not, I have an idea of where we're going to go, so we'll see. I know where we're going. All right, perfect. We are going to raid El's Dragoon. They are making they're a duo that's making a NES game. And they're doing it in assembly, of course, 6502. So super interesting stuff. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to wrap up before they raid me, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining. See ya.